Oh, can you please place in chat the link? Yes, so I can at least read the question if there will be any from there. Yay! We are
Oh,
live.
can you please place in chat?
So, as it look like, everything is ready now. So let's start again. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of the new series of BioMentorHub and this new webinar. So I am really, really happy to have you here today because we have two incredible, talented, and inspiring guests with us. They are Răzvan Marinescu and Cristiana Bănilă. They are both young scientists and entrepreneurs who have already achieved remarkable success in their field. And today they will be sharing with us their stories, their insights, and their journey that brought them here today with us. So before we dive into their presentations, let me briefly introduce them. We have, as I say, Răzvan Marinescu. He is originally from Romania. He completed his bachelor and master's degree in computer science at Imperial College London, followed by a PhD at UCL, where he worked on statistical methods for predicting Alzheimer's disease and other neurodegenerative disease. He then continued working on machine learning algorithms for healthcare during his postdoc at the MIT. And now he is an assistant professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering at the University of California, Santa Cruz, where his research focuses on machine learning application in healthcare and biomolecular systems. He is also co-founder and CTO of GiwoTech, a startup founded in 2020 that combined molecular dynamics and artificial intelligence to investigate viral proteins, aiming to develop new small molecules and innovative vaccines. The other speaker of today is Cristiana Bănilă. She is also originally from Romania. And she pursued her bachelor's in biochemistry at Oxford University, followed by a master in virology and public health economics at Princeton University. She completed her PhD in molecular epidemiology at Queen Mary University of London, focusing on DNA methylation and microbial biomarkers to improve cervical cancer diagnosis. In 2020, she co-founded Mitra Bio, a company focused on using genomics to extend the health span and enable precision therapeutics for skin. From that time on, she is working as a chief scientific officer there at the company. And last but not least, in 2023, she was honored as one of the Forbes 30 under 30 for the category Science and Healthcare. So we have two very impressive young scientists today with us. Welcome to both of you, Răzvan and Cristiana. We are all very, very excited to hear about your journeys, experience, what you accomplished so far, how you achieve it, and especially we are very, very curious about what you will accomplish in the future. Because this is also a big point. So you are not arrived where you are now. It's just one point in your complete trip. Before we really begin, I would like to remind everyone that this webinar is interactive, so please feel free to ask a question at any point during, before the presentation, after it, or just type your question on the chat and I will be sure to share them with our guests. Now, without further hesitation, let's jump in the most exciting part, which is hearing from our speaker, at least a part of the story. So, Razvan, Cristiana, the stage is yours. Whoever wants to start.
Cristiana, go ahead.
Thank you. Okay. Well, hello everyone, and first of all, thank you for the invitation to speak here with Razvan. It's actually quite nice to be here together because I remember the first time that we met. It was, well, many years ago. I don't really remember how many years, but more than 10. At the Geography Olympiad, the national phase in Romania. Neither of us was actually focusing on geography. So I was going to the national phase of chemistry, and he was going to the national phase of maths. And then both of us quite liked to hang out with people going to the Geography Olympiad. So we had this moment in which we were playing, I think it was Coldplay, the guitar outside the institute, and it was such a whole like soulful moment. I'm really I have a good memory of it still, so I'm really happy to be here with him. As far
Same
as
here. Yeah.
my journey, well, I think we had interesting journeys, both of us, since then. As you kindly introduced me, Chiara, my focus after kind of like studying chemistry in high school went a little bit more on biochemistry. I initially started my journey into the life sciences with a view to improve preventative medicine and diagnostics. So that's what I wanted to focus early on. This stemmed from my mother receiving diagnostics of cancer when I was young, so that influenced me quite a lot. Fortunately, the one-size-fits-all treatments that she received in Romania worked well with her, and she's very, very well and happy. But really made me question why she was diagnosed so late. Why did they not catch it earlier? Why they're not screening systems in place were at least not good enough in Romania at that time. And I had this set of questions, and I went to Oxford to try to answer them. And I've been very fortunate to actually go through many educational program that helped me at least have a little bit of a better picture about what's going on. I've ended up in a PhD program in Queen Mary, focusing exactly on this. So the whole premise of my PhD was to improve the cervical cancer system here in the UK and worldwide. The idea was to design non-invasive alternatives for the cervical screening program that was mostly focused on pap smear and then invasive procedures to actually get tissue out of women's cervices and then just analyze whether or not they have the disease or not, which was not very cost effective, and then it was not pleasant at the end of the day for the women. So I focused on the design of a simple vaginal swab that would collect cells and then look at biomarkers, specifically DNA methylation, that would be predictive of disease development. And then after around 4 years of work, I'm happy to say that the tool has entered clinical trials within the NHS, and right now it's considered for implementation within the screening systems here in the UK. So it's a little bit of a proud moment for me in the background. And I had the pleasure to have very good mentorship throughout my PhD program. Specifically, my PhD supervisor at that time, he was very entrepreneurial. So he was actually the person who pioneered HPV testing for women all worldwide. He had previously founded a startup. He sold it. So I was exposed at that time at this scientific entrepreneurship, and I guess I got the bug a little bit. And I met my co-founder towards the end of my PhD. It was quite nice timing for both of us. And She has had experience working at L'Oréal previously, and it was quite an interesting moment when we merged both of our worlds together. So the worlds of working with predictive biomarkers, combining it with an application in the real world, which was skin, and then the need for biomarkers within the skincare industry, and ideated on the topic for a little bit, got to the conclusion that building a couple of epigenetic clocks would be quite useful for direct collection of the skin from the face. And we came up with Mitra Bio, which does exactly that. It's for over the past 4 years, we've been aiming to build alternative, non-invasive alternatives for skin biopsies that would focus mostly on an adhesive that is placed on the skin anywhere of the body. Would collect skin cells, and we would look specifically at DNA methylation biomarkers to be predictive either of phenotype outcome for the skincare industry or for disease in some spaces. We've done some clinical trials for melanoma detection in that space. We've managed to have quite nice traction, and specifically in the skincare space. We've worked with some good large companies, helping them in their clinical trials to validate whether or not the products were having an anti-aging effect on the skin. As I mentioned earlier, we're building a little bit of traction on the clinical side, but that's a little bit more difficult and takes a bit longer in terms of funding, and then having the right partners to create a proper diagnostic tool that can be actively implemented in screening systems. But hopefully we're going to get to that point within our journey. But right now we're mostly focusing on skincare and defining what good skin is and how it should get older from the molecular perspective of DNA methylation, and how to address and reverse those biomarkers that we're investigating. I'm happy to get a little bit more deeper with the questions.
Thanks a lot for your story, to sharing with us your story. And now, Razvan, you can also share a bit of your story with us.
Yeah, sure. So let's see. So as you introduced me, so basically I grew up in Romania, and back then I was doing a lot of maths. I love maths. I was going through math Olympiads. It was fun. It was nice. I decided to go to study at Imperial for my undergrad. But the journey, how it went, is that I went to study computer science. I was so not mathematics, but it was very complementary and very interesting. And then sort of towards the end of my undergrad, I felt that I wanted to have some more meaningful, it was very abstract. I wanted to work on meaningful problems, and biology and medicine were providing exactly that. So I decided, I can actually apply my knowledge in math and computer science to biology. I did my master thesis back then in bioinformatics, and then I decided to pursue a PhD in this direction. I ended up working on medical imaging. So we had this fantastic dementia research center in London, and they were basically taking all the cases of dementia, Alzheimer's disease, many other types of Alzheimer's from all around the UK, and bringing them over in London and scanning them and evaluating these patients in lots of kind of ways, also doing cognitive tests, doing like even eye tracking experiments, blood, not blood biomarkers, more like CSF biomarkers, I should say. The blood biomarkers didn't exist at that time yet. Now they do. But anyway, they had a lot of amazing data, and I could actually use and I could actually build some very interesting ML models and algorithms to actually analyze and first of all do diagnosis of. So basically, if you get a scan, you can automatically diagnose someone with these algorithms. You can also do prognosis with these methods. You can do lots of things. So that's what I was doing in my PhD, and it was fascinating. It was interesting. multidisciplinary. It was combining, as I said, the computer science, maths, biology, neuroanatomy, and some genetics as well, and cognitive tests. So lots of disciplines coming together, and very collaborative also. It was a very collaborative environment. We were, again, collaborating with the clinicians. We were collaborating with even MRI physicists. So that was super interesting. And towards the end of my PhD, I got an offer to do a postdoc at MIT. And that was also great and fun. And yeah, I was very excited to live in America, and sort of to try out how it is to live there. And yeah, and but in particular, towards the end of my postdoc at MIT, um, so I was working on generative models for brain images. I was basically there's deep neural networks that you can basically you pass in these like latent vectors, they call these random numbers, and you pass them through many layers of a neural net, and at the end it generates a 3D brain image. And I was working on these kinds of models, creating synthetic brains, basically. And I was talking to like a friend of mine who was a postdoc, also at MIT, in biology, and we were bouncing ideas back and forth, and we realized we could actually solve a very interesting problem if we actually try to build what's called the genotype to phenotype model. So instead of taking these models, instead of giving it a random numbers as input, as a random latent, we can give it a DNA of a patient, and it can predict, say, the phenotype on, say, the 3D brain image, or something much simpler, maybe some other simpler phenotype. But basically, we were thinking of we could actually build these genotype to phenotype models, because that would have been fascinating and incredible. And that's how we started the idea of actually doing a startup. And we realized we need a lot of resources for this. A lot of it we need to collect a lot of data and run a lot of experiments. So that's which wasn't too easily feasible in an academic environment. So we went down that route, and we had several pivots, and we first tried to actually do this on not on brain images but on cells. So kind of like try to take the DNA of cells and predict the morphology, what we call deep phenotyping of the cell, basically, and sort of build this genotype phenotype model. But we worked on that for a while, but we realized also it was a very hard problem, very difficult, very challenging, and then we switched to our approach entirely to these what I call first principles types of simulations, using molecular dynamics. For this, you don't need the experimental data from the lab. You can actually simulate data, and you can simulate as much data as you need. Like you get infinite amounts of data, and then you can build ML models on top of that, and train the ML models on this data, and do lots of super cool things. So right now we're trying to to speed up these simulations, these molecular dynamic simulations with AI. We're trying to simulate a virus particle, how it self-assembles, and that if we're able to achieve that, that would unlock a lot of possibilities downstream, because we can simulate how viruses forming. We can simulate how the myelin sheath of neurons forms through self-assembly. We could simulate lots of other things like vacuoles in cells. For example, axon tubulin structures in cells also form to self-assembly. So there's lots of applications that we could do with this technology once we get it to work. So that's a bit of a short story. And yeah, so I also started as a professor at Santa Cruz 2 years ago, and it's really interesting. It's really great. I have a group of research students, PhD students, master students, undergrads, around 20 in total. So it's getting fairly large, and we work on these things plus many other things, plus like MRI simulators. We're simulating how MRI scans are being taken, we simulate that in a computer, and Yeah, and we just recently started building an actual MRI scan. So we have a PhD student who's actually building an MRI scanner, like a small one, but from scratch. So I can say more in a few months, but we just recently started doing this also. Yeah.
So it is very, very interesting how you combine many disciplines all together. So now you are also an engineer since you are starting building up your own instrument. So it is it is very, very very, very inspiring to see how you can combine many small part of your interest also to build up what it will be later on your career, your research, and so on. But I would like to start a bit in the past with you. So you both are from Romania, as you said, and you decide to pursue your education careers abroad. So do you have any advices for the young scientists that would also like to start for example from east part of Europe country or country with economics difficulties and so on, that they are looking for work to make an impact in science. So do you have, what's the problem that you face when you move far from home? And what's also the good part of it? So, of course, not only the problem.
Yeah, it's been quite an interesting experience navigating exactly as you say, as a young adult, all this change. And when it comes to moving to another country, of course, it has to be quite a good informed decision early on. And with a specific purpose. For me, obviously, I wanted to study biochemistry. Oxford was my place of choice. I had the good luck of already having. I mean, in Oxford, it's quite a small community, so it's easy to go and meet people, make friends. Going and like seeking always various groups of people that are interested in the same things as you are always helps to well, first of all, it was going to ease the conversation, and then you're going to meet like-minded people that are sharing your interests and potentially can become friends. So that is something really nice. And when it comes to making an impact in science, it's I guess having something that actually I've missed throughout my career so far was or not necessarily missed, but not really having enough or not engaging enough with were mentors. And actually finding those people that I would need to go to ask questions and help me guide towards my decisions would have been incredibly useful. I'm not saying I couldn't not have done it on my own and all, but there were some moments in which I maybe needed that conversation, maybe needed that support, maybe needed that person that have seen it all, has, well, not really all, but have been through what I was going through. So I guess like one piece of advice would be ask questions and find mentors along the way, because those conversations are going to be absolutely key in defining the career choices and then the level of impact that one needs to make.
Yeah, on my side, I think the decision whether to go to another country, I think it depends a lot on what you all want from life, what goals you have, and so it's a very nuanced decision. But perhaps I would say that if you do want to make an impact in science, if that's your goal, to make an impact in science worldwide, then probably not probably, then it makes sense to go to the best place possible, like the best place which enables that possible, which might not be your home country. So it really, yeah, if that's the goal. So then yeah, And of course, due to various economic circumstances, many places are much better. They are hubs for certain industries and so on, and it makes sense maybe to be there. Or they have incredible educational facilities, and it makes sense to go to one of those educational facilities, like universities. It could be university, they could be all kinds of startup accelerators, anything, really. But it makes sense to go to the best places in the world. Like I wouldn't, if that's what your goal truly is, that's what I would say. Yeah.
And even if it's not, even if that's, making like a huge impact is not the goal, right? Like going to the best places in the world, as Răzvan mentioned, it's an incredible tool to actually build a network. And what I'm realizing more and more every day is not necessarily about what you know, but who you know. And starting early on to build on that is going to definitely help out along the way.
Yeah, this is definitely a point. So, about it, you would, what is, this is definitely one of your advices then, to look for a person that can helps you along the way, that are also like in a maybe higher position, mentor and so on. So you also mentioned Christiana that before you have mentor as your PhD advisor, so basically work like it. Can you share with us a bit of more of how this help you, or what is the benefit of this that you see on your own?
Sure. So as I mentioned earlier, I was very fortunate to be mentored by this person. His name is Attila Laurent. Now he's beautifully retired somewhere near Boston in the States with his family. Previously in the past, he's built a couple of companies, but the most notable one was one that was specifically looking into HPV testing. Was acquired by Hologic. Hologic was quite a large company in the space at that time. So having been exposed to his story, how he started the company, how he navigated the company, and then obviously in the end making an exit with it, the impact that it had on his life, and then the space that it actually gave him to go and pursue quite risky scientific areas was absolutely fascinating. He started the research on DNA methylation as a predictor for cervical cancer at that time because he had the good mental space. He understood he understood the impact that potentially might have, and obviously, right, he had a little bit of freedom to actually play around with interesting concepts. That turned out to be quite useful. So it was a very good experience. To be fair, I didn't really interact that much with him because he was traveling quite a lot. But whenever he was in London, I remember I was like a sponge. Like I would like to just like be around him and ask all the questions and just learn from his experience as much as I could. And at that time, I didn't think he had that much influence on me, to be fair. I didn't think that I would go on an entrepreneurial path myself. But it was actually quite useful to have had all the conversation with him to like help me navigate the space that I'm in right now. And even after I've started the company, I still called him a couple of times to ask him various questions about regulatory routes and how to I don't know what sort of experiments or what sort of like hospital partners would you need to actually bring on the market a diagnostic tool, how to validate it in the space and so on. So he's still there. He's still helping out. And he is right now a little bit more of a passive mentor, but definitely had a lot of impact on what I'm doing right now.
It is amazing to listen that you had so beautiful interaction with your advisor and that you are still having some help from him. It is very, very, very nice to hear. And about you, Razvan, did you have any mentor, any person that inspired you in following this entrepreneurship or not?
Not directly, actually. I didn't. Yeah. I had as I said, like I had I didn't have none of my academic mentors, yeah, were necessarily inspiring me to do entrepreneurship. But um, as I did meet, however, when I was in my postdoc, I did meet one professor at MIT who had not one but two startups at the same time as being a professor, and he was the one who kind of like partially sort of like got me intrigued. I can describe it at the time because it wasn't something that I wanted to pursue yet at the time. Um, but yeah, he got me very intrigued by the idea, and I was asking him lots of questions, and we're discussing about it. And in the meantime, he sold one of those startups, and he started another one, so he has a third one. So yeah, it's but the other thing, the other thing is also that I experienced that at least when I moved to the US, I realized that actually that I felt that the culture there was more entrepreneurial than what I was used to in Europe. Like for example, even my own flatmate had when I moved to Boston for the first time, my own flatmate, there were four of us sharing a flat. Me, like a friend of mine who I've known for like 10 years since high school from the Math Olympiads, and two other friends that he brought in. And one of those turned out he had a startup also in the healthcare. And he was like digitizing like patient intake forms, lots of other things, so kind of like digital healthcare. And it was very interesting to sort of like to see him kind of like build that and kind of like grow it. And I remember he was on the phone all the time, and it was very interesting. So he was of course like talking about like everything that needs to be done at a startup. But it was yeah, it was very interesting to see that. So um it turned out really well. He ended up selling it 2 or 3 years later, and anyway, what I was trying to say, like I didn't have too much in terms of mentorship, I can say. But I was exposed to a lot of like these. I had friends who or like I was exposed to people who had startups, and yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Răzvan. London doesn't really compare to the States when it comes to entrepreneurship mindsets. I recently traveled to Boston, and like it seems that everyone is doing something over there. I don't know how this is how it's possible, but yeah, it's a different mindset, and that I guess should be taken into considerations into whatever life choice or country choice, depending of future needs.
Yeah, so another of your advices would be travel as much as possible, right? Or at least to countries that are not similar between each other, because you can always get some inputs, something interesting also for your career. So, for example, the US in comparison to London, as you said now, and for sure also in comparison to Romania, as you started from, right?
Yeah, I mean, not only these three examples, there are many other places in the world. Like France is surprisingly good lately on tech and health tech. And they're attracting quite a lot of investment from the States. Yeah, of course, the traveling opens up your mind and gives you different perspectives of how people are thinking, and what opportunities might be in certain places. So I'm a very big fan of traveling. I mean, in the past 2 years, I've been traveling every single month. I would go in like one place or another. Lately has been with a company in mind, so it's either conferences or networking or doing business development or anything like that, and I've started to enjoy it even more. But in the past, for instance, I used to have, I lived in, I've done my undergrad at Oxford, but then I've had extensive internships in Portugal and France, where I lived around 4 months. It was in this gorgeous setting near the sea, so it's been good for me. And then I've lived in the States as well for my master's, and who knows what other destinations I'm gonna end up in. But yeah, in terms of like building a company, I think there are a couple of hubs in the world that are well, not necessarily better than others, but they definitely make your life a bit easier. And when it comes to Europe, London is one of them. And then I guess like the States in general, I'll let Răzvan speak more about it.
Yeah. Yeah, the same. I would say, yeah, in the States, of course, the Bay Area, Boston. It depends in what industries now. So, but for example, in biotech, I would say there's three main hubs in the US, but Bay Area, Boston, and San Diego. And of course, for other industries, there's more, and then there's more minor hubs. Of course, Texas Austin is becoming a very also a quite big hub, and there's more. Of course, if for other industries like finance, of course, it will be Chicago and New York, and yeah, it depends on the industry. But for biotech, these three, I would say.
Yeah, you mentioned that there are some places where it is easier to start your company, but do you think that there is also a specific mindset that is essential to success both in academia or in companies? So, do you think that there is something that the young scientists need to have as their mindset to build up a company?
Yeah, definitely. I discovered recently this new word. It's called grit, and I think that is the the one that would describe exactly what you're asking right now. Um, in both science and entrepreneurship, I think there will be moments in which, it's going to be tough, and the ability to continue through the tough times really defines a person or their ability to be able to make a big impact into the world.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, you need to be resilient, determined, and but I think to make it more well, it's hard to make things very concrete. But one thing that could really help actually for all of you who might be interested in this is like both entrepreneurship, but also academia or any path you choose is to actually to read biographies of people, of like great scientists or entrepreneurs or like politicians, whoever. Yeah, like read their stories. Actually, they're very interesting, and you learn so much. And that's what I would really recommend, and because you understand it much better. So that would be my advice. It's hard to really spell it out because there's so many dimensions that you have to get right.
Do you have a favorite scientist that you read the biography of and that inspire you?
Einstein's biography. Yeah, yeah, I recently read Einstein's biography. It was fascinating. It was fascinating. By Walter Isaacson. I recently just finished reading the biography of Jennifer Doudna, the professor from Berkeley who developed CRISPR gene editing, and it was really interesting, really great, and so I would say these two, yeah, biographies I really enjoyed. Yeah. And you can tell lots of things. You can tell how determined they were, how intrigued, how motivated. Like for example, like you can see how like Jennifer was going in every weekend and kind of like checking on the experiments, what was cooking in her lab, and like and so you can see all these details, like and especially you can see their early life and kind of like how they. Yeah, like before they became, say, famous, before they had their successes, and you can tell how they really made that happen, and we were using the tools that were available to them at the time.
Oh, yes, definitely. Super
Yeah,
interesting and cool. And you, Cristiana, do you have any special scientific character that take a place in your heart and inspire you to become the scientist that you are today?
It's an interesting question. I think I'm evolving. I mean, definitely science is at my heart, but I think I'm becoming a bit more operational than scientific lately, which I'm not sure if I like it or not. I'm definitely exposed to science every day, but it's the nature of the work that is pushing me in this direction. And it's also a different dimension that I'm exploring as well within science per se, as or the various scientific industries. When it comes to like a special character, I don't have someone on top of my mind. I've also read Jennifer Doudna's biography. I really enjoyed it. I have a since I was young, actually, I do have a passion for biographies. Or reading people's stories. So I was very happy when Razvan mentioned it. But I don't really have like some scientist on top of my mind. I think like my PhD supervisor if it would be closest to answering this question.
I see. That's still a very interesting answer. I mean, this doesn't mean that for inspiring you, you don't need always a very top of level scientist that it is on all the books of chemistry, biology, or whatever. Can also be really a person that touches your life
True.
personally.
Yeah, and I think yeah, with entrepreneurship, especially within the scientific domain, um, well, understanding science is one thing, but then understanding how to navigate the commercial world is a totally different thing. And marrying these two worlds together, it is fascinating. So I really respect anyone who's been doing well. There have been iterations, there have been a lot of failures along the way. But I like to see that people are still pushing, and there is constant innovation in the space, and constant interesting ways of bringing science into the commercial space.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Talking a bit more about your companies, then what has been the most rewarding part of your journey till now with your company, and what have been the most difficult challenges that you had to face till now during your journey? I know they are difficult. I know that they are hard,
Oh, no,
but
thinking about it. For me, definitely the biggest rewards or the biggest achievements I feel within building a company within this path that I've chosen was building a team and having that team actually I mean, seeing the purpose, seeing the motivation in the team to actually resolve the work that we've been putting together, it's fascinating. So you kind of like see this like little cell evolving into an organism, and then everyone is kind of like going into the same direction. That is the most beautiful thing that I've personally experienced so far. And that's one of the reasons, I guess, that still keeps me going. Apart from that, I'm always happy to see numbers. So far, since we started from a simple concept. We didn't even know whether it was possible to extract DNA methylation markers from the skin, to the point that we started generating revenues of £1 million through the contract, well, through the programs that we've been setting up with our partners. And then we've managed to attract quite a significant investment recently. I'm gonna be able to tell you more details in a month or so. So having or seeing those things evolve in that way from absolutely zero to, well, nice growing numbers is quite beautiful to see. And when it comes to challenges, I think every single stage, every single part of the journey had its own challenge per se. So, well, making like a working prototype was difficult at the beginning, but then attracting the first customer was even more difficult. And then making that first customer buy again was insanely more difficult. Attracting more customers and growing the size of the contracts was difficult. And then attracting a good investment to actually help us scale up was, like one level of difficulty higher as well. So it depends on the stage of the growth of the company, I would say. But there are challenges along the way. Every single day is a challenge.
Okay, maybe some supporting words for the person that would like to start.
Every single challenge can be surpassed. That's
Great.
with a good mindset and a good team, and there are always resources around. And even if you don't really seem to, I don't know, find the solution for your problem today, I guarantee that after a good night's sleep and then a conversation with an advisor, you'll figure it out.
Great. And for you, Razvan?
I think the most rewarding parts for me were to actually have incredible conversations with my co-founder, and like sort of like with the brainstorming lots of things. We were when we made the plans, when we made pivots and so on, when we completely sometimes like changed the approach of how we do certain things, like that, those were very interesting. They're very rewarding. I can describe them. And yeah, it's something. It's an important thing, of course, to get along well with your co-founders, to have a good relationship, and not just like a professional one, but also like a personal one, to almost like you're very close friends at that point. And some other incredibly rewarding things I experienced was when I was realizing and discovering some new things about this particular areas. So like those were super interesting. Those were incredible. So I really enjoyed those. Like again, reading lots of like papers and like implementing several systems and like models and so on, and other ways to do. Those were super interesting. I really enjoyed them. Yeah, and kind of like more tough moments. We had so many. We had so many. Yeah. Yeah. Basically, with like starting from the very beginning with like sorting out my green card situation in the United States, because to do a startup you need to have a green card, and yeah, and navigating that whole space wasn't easy. And then so yeah, many things, many other things along the way. Yeah. Trying to apply for our first grants, getting our first grants, and yeah, basically pitching to an investor, getting a no, pitching to another investor again and being rejected, and so on and so on. So keeping on trying. So those things can be sometimes can feel demoralizing after a while, but you just need to find a way to yeah, to get back on your feet quickly and to kind of continue. I would say.
I
Yeah.
agree. I agree. It just it takes a long time to actually go through fundraising and be successful within it. And what we've realized that is not necessarily within our our control as founders, no matter how hard you pitch, no matter how good the product it is. So it takes some time, and then as Răzvan is saying, right, keeping that motivation, and like, I don't know, just you have to be a little, not necessarily delusional, but you have to really believe in what you're doing to be able to continue every day.
I see. So, is this the main things that can help you to keep going also when you have a problem after the other and after the other? What let you keep going? So what was the thing? You're believing in your company, you're believing in your coworker, in yourself, or it's just because you knew that you were delivering something important? What let you keep going?
I think you're gonna receive very different answers from me and Rizvan right now. But in all the collection of options that you mentioned, I would include markets too. Because within making a company, it's kind of like a synergy between what you're making and then the problem or what the market wants at the end of the day. And we started 4 years ago with just anticipating what the markets would look like right now, because right now we feel that, things are kind of picking up. So having like a good grasp of the market and how things are going to evolve into is quite important, but that needs quite a lot of research, and it's the similar type of research than the one that you do for your PhD thesis, like academic PhD thesis as well. And what kept me going is just observing how the market is changing, how various players are starting to look into this, into the direction that we were working in. We would see like companies launching various products that had some claims on epigenetics, for instance, and so on. So we would see things were picking up in very interesting ways along the way, and then you would see I mean, for me, of course, working within the team. It's one of the best things with the team that we currently have. It's one of the best things for my motivation, for my well-being, and so on. It's kind of like a little family, and that brings me quite a lot of joy. My relationship with my co-founder is amazing, and I mean, at this stage, I mean, we're definitely very good friends. I would even argue it's like closer to a marriage, the sort of relationship that we're having um, rather than just friendship. And being surrounded by so very, very smart people every day is quite a privilege, and I enjoy that.
Yeah, so family first, in a way or another, the family that you choose in this case.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very beautiful. And for you, so now I am very curious to listen to the very different answer from you, Razvan.
Yeah, so well, what kept me going was fundamentally the belief that what I was doing was the most important thing I could do at the time, and I'm still doing right now. Or literally is this because with my skills and with my experience and so on, it is the most important problem that I could work on at the moment because I mean, fundamentally, these types of simulations that we're doing are leading to the ability to predict phenotypes, like we're given any changes to like genetic changes and also like chemical changes. If you include a drug into this like cell virus and so on, proteins, what's gonna happen those biological systems. And then like this ability will be so important further down the line for humanity because we're entering into an era, for example, there's been a CRISPR revolution for the last 10 years. We have the ability to easily modify genes right now. We're going into an era very soon with all of humanity where we're actually going to have newborn babies that will be born with no diseases, no genetic diseases. We'll have already genetic modifications at the embryo stage being done already with like CRISPR, and they will have no more genetic diseases. But even further, they could even have all kinds of enhancements. For example, they could have maybe as a parent, maybe you could choose to for your children to have I don't know maybe better muscles to be better athletes, for example, if they choose and you want to, or maybe they could potentially enhance the cognitive abilities. So what if there's some genes that can lead to better memory retention, for example, or better cognitive processing and so on. So all these things are I feel like they're taking us to transhumanism, to basically to a world of transhumanism And I think it's one of the most important things, that I could do at the moment to help in this direction, basically. Because right now we're in a world where even though we have the ability to change genes, we're still in a world where we're so blindfolded. We change a combination of genes and we have no idea what's going to happen to the downstream phenotype of these cells of babies, and that's why we're still kind of like scared to even do it because we don't know what's truly going to be the impact. If we're able to simulate these changes in a computer, that would be phenomenal. That would be incredible. What kept me going was this belief that it's one of the most important things I could do with my time. And what else could I do if not this? I mean, I could sit around the house all day and watch TV. So yeah.
I see. So it's the love for science in your case that let you keep going, yeah?
More than that, I feel, because I was trying to say it's almost like the long-term impact on humanity that you could have. Yeah, I'd say.
Yes, definitely
Yeah.
a great purpose, I would say. Yes, hard to achieve, but very beautiful. So we have a question that I think would summarize the talk of today, which is how would you advise a young undergraduate with a science idea that want to build up a startup?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Well, at the undergraduate phase, there are a couple of accelerators in which you can go and test out your ideas and maybe potentially find a co-founder. But I mean, I don't know. I would like to hear Răzvan's opinion on this. I would definitely put on a lot of thought and research into that idea, or even expose myself into other scientific concepts and speak with as many people as possible, even engage in a PhD program if the time allows as well, to properly sediment what you're thinking. But maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm biased by my own trajectory so far. So I would say seek out the opportunities, but definitely validate them with good advisors and mentors.
If you're a young undergrad who's looking to do a startup, like the first thing I'd say, yeah, to try to get into a good accelerator program. Those are great. Like something like a very good one, like Y Combinator, Entrepreneur First. There's many of them in US and Europe and Asia. There's many of these accelerators. I'd try to build a team with your colleagues. So your friends, your university colleagues, like just to try to build a good team with them. If you're by yourself, you're not gonna achieve much. Actually, you won't be able to really. It'll be very hard. It's very hard to do a startup as a solo founder, almost, and completely not recommended. I would not recommend it. Again, read biographies of entrepreneurs. That's one of the best things you could do right now. Read the stories, read the materials online. Yeah, that's what comes to mind right now.
Yeah, definitely valuable advice. Yeah, they will be definitely useful for whoever would like to start this career. I have a last question from my side, which is, would you have ever expected to arrive where you are now? I mean, when you were young, when you were still to school, when you were full of hope for sure, but would you have expected to arrive till now? I mean, it's incredible where you are now.
No, but I think it was just the lack of exposure and education that I had at that time. Unfortunately, if I would have been exposed to these sort of ideas, these sort of entrepreneurs, these sort of think big type of mindsets, probably yes, but unfortunately I didn't. I'm proud that I managed to navigate to the point that I'm in right now.
Yeah, sure you have to. And for you, Razvan?
Like, I don't know. I want to say actually, like I feel like I'm not on a pedestal, like not right now, and like I won't, like in the sense like I don't feel like I feel like I can do much more still even in the future, and like I know I guess I have done certain things, but like I don't feel like but necessarily that um that I'm already on a pedestal already or in and mm, so I don't know what I definitely dreamed of being a scientist from high school, back when I was in high school, I'd say. And yeah. But yeah, but fundamentally, like, I don't feel right now I am necessarily on a pedestal. And like, I feel like there's much more we have to do, to really do great things, like extraordinary things.
Sure, there is always a bit of pathway still to work on and so on. But still, I mean, you are young, you are working in academia and having a startup. It is not for everyone. I mean, you need a lot of managing, you need a lot of also strongness be to keep going, as we say before. So I think both of you definitely you didn't arrive, because I am sure you will have still in front of you plenty of things to do, to change the world, definitely that in a better world, because we really need it. But still, you work quite a lot until now, and I am sure that the kids that you were, it's very proud of you at the moment, of what you already achieved, even if it's not your finish point, your stop point.
Yeah.
Is there something that you would like to point out that is very important for you, like lessons that you would like to give to other, and to teach them from where you are now, of course, to the young scientist?
Perseverance, discipline, and a good partner will take you a long way.
Sounds very good. Easy, but hard at the same time. Difficult to describe, because we all have, I mean, friends and person that are working with us. As you mentioned before, your advisor. I am your co-founder now, and all your team. So it's easy to find person, but sometimes it's not that easy to find the right person. I mean, you have to be also open for them in a way or another. And it is
That's
yeah,
true. That's true. I mean, I guess you have to accept another person as they are, but if they already have a complementary skill set to you and roughly you can work together well, it's more than half of the equation sorted. The other little bits of things, you obviously will have to work on yourself to be able to interact with them, right? They're not there's not a given.
yeah, sure. And for you, Razvan, any lesson that you would like to tell
No,
the
really,
other
no, not
person?
really, no. But I'd much rather, I'm happy to take any questions from anyone from the audience.
Yes, we can look if we have some questions. So on YouTube we have, and I think that, so partially we have already answered that, but anyway, I will read them anyway. Are there any areas in Europe where you see more development in biotech startup industry? So you mentioned before America, right?
Zurich.
Oh.
London, I would say, but one second. Yeah, I mean, London. Do I remember correctly that the EMA was in London, but was recently moved to Amsterdam? The European Medical Agency of Medicines was in London, but now it was moved to Amsterdam. I hope I'm remembering correctly. So I don't know now in the future what that means for the future, if London will still stay as a hub for biotech or it might kind of move to Amsterdam because of the move of the EMA. Yeah. So there's a lot of healthcare centers everywhere, but for biotech, like more like fundamental biology, like cell biology, and molecular biology. There's also the EBML in Germany, the European Lab for Molecular Biology. That's a great place. These places, I'd say, yeah. These places, I'd say, yeah. Zurich, EBML, Amsterdam, London.
Yeah, I
Do
agree.
yeah.
No, I agree. There are various other, of course, operationally you can function in many spots, but opportunities are more localized. And I exactly what Răzvan has mentioned about these spots, London, Zurich, Amsterdam. France, but I'm really struggling to pinpoint like some exactly where. There's some good accelerators that are producing nice healthcare startups in Paris at the moment, but not sure exactly whether those are actually staying in France or they're being relocating. Yeah, I would say like, to keep it simple, like just towards Western Europe.
Yeah. So we don't have any other question from the audience today, and therefore I am thanking you so much for your time, for sharing your stories, your advice with us today. It was very inspiring and beautiful to hear from you. So before we wrap up, if you enjoy today's session, so please share it with everyone that you know, because I am sure at least one friend, colleagues, or whoever in your family can be interested in that, and maybe can be also inspired from it to be the next generation of entrepreneurs. Who knows? So share it everywhere and as much as you can. And let's thanks again our speaker and all of you that joining us today. Have a great rest of the day, and we are looking forward to see all of you at the next webinar. Thanks a lot and bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.